Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm coming to you with part 2 of my Let's Talk video about life after college. So I wanted to go more in depth about, finding the right job and when the right time is to leave a job. So through my experience, and I'm just speaking through my experience, I learned a few things about what to look for when pursuing a specific job. I also want to point out that you should never stop looking for a job until you find the one that you want, the one that you envisioned yourself doing after college. And I don't think anyone should stop chasing that job until they find one, the one that they want. So the things that you should look for before accepting a position at a company or wherever is employee satisfaction. And how would you know if the employee satisfaction is high? Look at the reviews. We all use Google Glassdoor to check company reviews, and also you can even ask in your interview, like, what is the work culture like here? Those are some ways that you can kind of learn and anticipate how you're gonna like the job. Ask about the work culture, the work environment, the type of things they do as a company to really get to know their staff and their employees, things like that. So just make sure that where you're going, the employee satisfaction is a little bit high, because if you're not happy where you're working, you're going to dread going to work every day. Another thing that you should look for before accepting a job position is good benefits. What is your company offering you? And most of the time we look for jobs with the idea that we need them, but they also need you. So remember that you're an asset to them, and that's why they're hiring you. So what can they do for you in return? My company in specific, they offer free healthcare, which is amazing because I haven't been covered in 2 years. So that's something that I really look forward to, and that made me really want the job even more. So that's another thing. Good benefits. Again, positive work environment. Like I said before, ask about the work environment, ask about the work culture, and you want to make sure that wherever you're going is going to be a positive environment that's supportive and that is open to you asking questions, and that's just going to be there to answer whatever questions that you may have. And you can also ask that in an interview. Just make sure that you're going to be supportive or supported in whatever position you're going into. So again, with a positive work environment, you want to have a supportive staff, so I'm not even going to get into that. And what's so important is that wherever you're going, they're going to offer you room for growth and development in your career. That's what I look for in every job interview that I go into. I want to know that there's room for growth and promotion from within. Another thing about the company that I work for, they promote from within. So that's really important to me, because let's say that you've been with a company for 3 years and it's time that you want to move forward and progress. You want to be somewhere that they're gonna be open to that, and that they're gonna allow you to grow in whatever field or area that you have, or transfer within different departments. So look for jobs with opportunities to grow and develop your skills. Lastly, you want to make sure that the salary and the workload are equivalent in some type of aspect. Like in my first job, I didn't feel like the amount that I was getting paid was matching up to the amount of work that I was doing, because I literally felt like a slave, and I wasn't making enough to support myself and to have money left over to do whatever I wanted. So make sure that wherever you're going, you're not working overtime for free. That's all I'm gonna say. So now that I said all of that, hopefully I made myself clear and you guys aren't confused, but I want to talk about when you should leave a job, and how do you know when it's the right time to leave a job. And I also want to point something out, because I was having a conversation with some girls last week, and we were just talking about, how we felt obligated to stay in a position because we felt like they didn't have anyone else to cover us. So if we left, who would they have to do the job? And let me just say that is not your responsibility to make up for the time that is being lost. If you're not happy in a position, I don't think that you should stay there just because you're worried about the next person behind you. That's the company's responsibility. So if they're not treating you with satisfaction, if they're not appreciating you, then you shouldn't stay there. And if it really gets to a point where it's like a negative or hostile environment, that's like the number one sign that it's time to go, because we don't want any negativity in our lives. If it ain't positive, they can keep it. So another thing is, if you're not learning and if you're not growing, this goes with my point in looking for a job, you want to make sure that you have room for growth and development. So if you're not finding opportunities to grow and develop within your position, then that's also another thing that you should consider if you're deciding to leave a job. So if you're not being challenged, if you're not learning, if you feel like you're just stagnant in one place and you're not growing and you're not developing new skills, then that's something that you need to think about. So if you have to force yourself to get up every morning to go to work, which I know is a little because most of us feel that way on a daily, whether we're working a job that we love or that we don't. So if you really dread going to your job and it makes you unhappy and you don't feel like you're living with a purpose in this position that you're in, that's something that you should consider before you leave your job. Okay? So I know personally, I knew that I had to leave my job because I was, like I said, I was dreading going to work every single morning, and I was miserable. I was mentally drained, I was physically drained, and I felt the most disconnected from God that I've ever felt in my life, because I felt like I was just on a routine, like going to work, waking up, eating breakfast. Well, I didn't even eat breakfast, to be honest. I would just wake up, go to work, come home, shower, eat, and sleep, and repeat. So I was just on a cycle, and I didn't feel like anywhere in that cycle was I living purposefully. So if you're there, then I think that it's time that you need to make a decision for your benefit. So like I was saying, if your attitude shifts, if you used to go into work happy, joyful, always smiling, and your attitude shifts to the complete opposite, which is what happened to me, then I think that it's definitely time to go. Now, I mentioned in what I was saying before about when I knew it was time to leave my job. If you separate yourself from everything that you love to do or everyone that you love because of the effects of working at your job, honey, get up out of there, boo. You gotta go, because there's nothing more unfulfilling than not doing what you love. So think about it. That's all I'm gonna say. And if you ever enter a state of depression, and you're coming from a person that had a positive attitude, and now you're feeling like depressed and stagnant, and like you just feel like a blob just sitting there, more than likely it's time for you to make a change. And that goes along with, if you don't have a good work-life balance, that was something that was really big for me. And that's another thing that you should look for in a job, is making sure that your schedule does not overcome anything else in your life. When I was working at my previous job, I was working like 10 to 12 hour shifts. And by the time I got home, I was done. Like, I was ready to go to sleep. And then unfortunately I had to wake up the next day and go back. So there was no work-life balance, even on the weekends. Like, I felt like I didn't even want to do anything on the weekends because I was catching up on my rest. Like, I was just so burnt out to the point where I couldn't even like pretend anymore. I couldn't even pretend that I was happy where I was. And once you get to that point where you can't even pretend and act like you're happy, then I think that it's just time to go on to something better. And if you have to take a risk, then take it, because nothing is more important than your mental peace. Nothing's more important than that. And I feel like if your job starts messing with your mental, then it's time to cut it loose. And that's something I had to do because I was at my breaking point, and I just had to make a decision whether I wanted to wait, or if I could wait enough or longer enough to get a new job before I quit. In this case, I couldn't, because I didn't even have the time to even have a phone interview because I was always at work, and I didn't even rarely take lunch breaks, which is insane, but sometimes you just eat on the clock and you continue with your day. So I didn't even have the time to even do phone interviews, let alone schedule an actual interview. So in my case, I had to quit, and I had to do what was best for me in order to find something better. And God blessed me tremendously in this area of my life, because 2 weeks after I quit, I was starting a new job. And I was kind of shook, because after graduation, like in my previous video, I mentioned that it took me 6 months to find a job. 2 months after graduation, 6 months in total. But I wasn't expecting to start so quickly. And to be honest, I was kind of enjoying the time back that I had to relax and kind of recoup from all the work that I was doing. I was actually enjoying being unemployed, but God said, nope, get your behind up. You about to go to work, okay? And you also about to have free health care, and it's also about to be across the street from your apartment. So I am beyond blessed with what the Lord is doing in my life. Well, my camera cut off, but basically I was just saying how blessed I am that the Lord created this job specifically for me. The job position did not even exist a month before I applied to it. And so I felt so chosen for this specific job. And I'm so blessed. And I hope that God does the same for you all. And I hope that you find peace and prosperity in whatever direction you choose to go in. And I just want to remind y'all to keep the faith and to never forget that God is always with you, and He's always going to be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. And I pray that you just go with that message and have a blessed week. And thanks for visiting my channel. Bye, guys.